turn it over to Mr. McCardle since we're starting with the work session.
Okay, we're going to start with our budget work session we're going to go over tonight. It's going to be just discussion only. There won't be any action or votes taken tonight, so we're just going to talk about different projects that we foresee in the future. And Stephanie and Joe are going to do most of the talking, so I'll turn it over to Stephanie and let her go from here.
Sure. Just wanted to, can you guys hear me okay? Okay. It doesn't sound like it's on very much.
Test, test, test,
Okay, Justin's going to get us working.
test, test, test.
You're on.
Can you hear me now? Oh, hey, look at that. So just to give everyone a little bit of an update on where we are so far and kind of what to expect moving forward. We've received all the preliminary budget requests from department heads. We were scheduled to meet, the mayor and I were scheduled to meet with department heads last week. I obviously had to be out of the office, so we've moved those to tomorrow and Thursday, and we should have that review done. We are currently $1.2 million shy of balancing the budget. We have tonight's work session where our schedule is to just review, I'm going to go over this real quick, our major capital projects, including our SRF projects, and then we have a couple other with the lake, associated with the lake, that we'll talk about. Our first scheduled work session, hold on, my computer's slow. You should have all received a calendar request for this. My glasses are fogging up.
Next Monday.
Yes, thank you. I can't see without my glasses on either. Next Monday, we have one scheduled for 6 o'clock. I did get asked whether the council would want to consider moving that earlier or not. So if you would like to meet earlier than 6 o'clock, we can certainly move that. It would be my intention that at that meeting we could go over where we're kind of at overall with the mayor's proposal for the budget, and then moving forward with what some of the recommendations are, and then we'll go through and start reviewing the projects as well as the subsidy requests and other items from there. You should have received calendar appointments for today, also for September 12th. We can do one September 19th prior to council meeting if needed. And then we had one set for October 3rd and 17th. I don't know if we'll need all of those, but if needed, they're set so that you can come together and discuss that. Our first reading will be held on November 7th, and then the second reading and adoption on November 21st. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to Joe and let him start talking about our major project review.
Let's get back to the 12th. Could we do it at 5:30?
Yeah, whenever you guys want to meet, it's fine with me.
Would work?
Okay. I'm here at 5. Okay with that. Looks like we are.
Okay, I just moved it to 5:30.
Perfect.
So 5:30 next.
I got
Yep.
nothing in my calendar anyways.
Monday.
Looks like I wasn't even gonna be here.
And you should get a calendar report on, or update on that here shortly too, if you use those as well.
Amen.
Okay. Man, that looks a little,
All right, so like Stephanie said, we're going to start with Public Works tonight. You're not going to see anything new that you haven't seen before. We're going to keep working off the same plan that we presented last year, and a lot of projects and a lot of numbers you've seen in the past. Our 2022 project review, I'll just run through these quickly. Our Daily Drive lift station, 99% complete. We just need to do our final paperwork. East Central Phase 2, again, 99% complete, final paperwork. The Foster Street Bridge Big Grant, as you know, opened last week. So we are at substantial completion with that project. Live Say utility improvements, that will bid this fall with a 23 completion. North Wastewater Treatment Plant, we have started with a September of 23 completion. That's our big one, east of town. with our new headworks building for our wastewater facility. 5th and 9th, which I'm sure has been a headache for a lot of people getting around town, will be completed this fall. The completion date is October 15th. I would expect a change order to push that back a week or two due to some things we had happen during construction. That'll probably be at the next council meeting.
Just have to beat the interstate.
I think we can do that.
Snow's gonna fly before the interstate's done.
They get concrete.
On East 10th, they broke ground, I believe, 2 weeks ago. That will also be completed this fall with a November completion. So that's where we, fingers crossed, where we keep good weather going into November. Our ground storage tank project, there's a recommendation to award at tonight's council meeting, so we'll run through those numbers later. The Raleigh and Norway bike path is finally ready for bid this fall with a 23 construction.
So the work under the bridge is got to the point?
So they still need to do sidewalks and they still need to do the bridge abutments as part of that, and that should be completed this year.
Are they doing a retaining wall under there, or what are they gonna do? Because it,
There is a retaining wall, and then they're doing, it's the same as the material that's under the Burr Street Bridge. It's that black, I'm not even sure what you call it, but it's not rock.
that's DOT though,
Correct, yep. I think we have
not us.
10% of that we cover as far as costs go, because we have the sidewalk and some other work included with that. And then the East Spruce Street water and street improvements, that'd be the continuation to MTI of the 5-lane. That is also planned for 23 completion. We're still dealing with BNSF permits. We haven't quite gotten past that hurdle, but we're moving forward anyway.
And Joe, I was going to update just on one thing we are going to do differently this year in budget. Last year, we tried to anticipate what was remaining in budgets and automatically plug them in for this year's budget. And it did not go well. We were showing cash applied for unfinished projects. So any of these projects that are not completed in 2022, you're going to see them as supplemental appropriations in early 2023. It's just going to help us have a better idea of where our cash really is at, and it is. So we did try it the other way one year. It wasn't very easy to track what those changes were.
Yep.
Wastewater would be huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
contingency is gonna be a large.
Well, that's a little bit different in the utility accounts because those are enterprise funds, but more for anything that's happening in the general fund. Before we tried to supplement those over through the budget process, and it was just really too difficult for us to track when we got to supplements this year. Some of the projects weren't as far as we thought they would be, and some got farther than they thought we would be. So
you can go ahead and move to the next slide. Our next projects will be our ARPA projects that we have identified for loans through SRF, that we have received for loan, I guess I should say. 23rd and Ullman Lift Station, we're relocating that to the south side of 23rd. We're going to work on some odor control on that lift station. Cost is $1.1 million. The existing structure is 50 years old. Significant deterioration in the structure, and it's time to be replaced.
What does cause you to do that one?
So that one, the lift station is actually, the pumps are designed and the structure is oversized, so it just sits in there too long, is when it's ready to be pumped. Yep.
It is strong
Yep.
Strong is an understatement.
and long.
The only time it doesn't smell is in the dead of winter when it's cold.
I predict that house on
Yeah.
the corner of Pell Beach Road will not change hands so often after that. It's been good.
It changes every 6 months now.
Yep.
We have had, obviously, a lot of questions ever since we had the flood here 3 years ago
Yep.
of what can, what can our storm sewer or ground sewer actually handle? Is this going to help, this lift station help in that area?
So that's kind of a loaded question, because if our design professionals say that our lift stations are sized adequately for the domestic flow that we produce, Now, when you have a large storm and you have quote-unquote people pumping their sump pumps into the sewer, those types of situations,
Which happened in April. You were still pumping into the sewer rather than to the ground when that huge storm hit. So that was a very big tax on our system.
or if someone's basement floods and that, or their sump pump, stops running and that water enters the sanitary sewer through a floor drain, there's calculations that show that that could potentially back up the next 6 houses back. So it's,
And then we're also taking South Lake into consideration.
correct, yes. When we SPN did a study in 2018 where all those areas that are being developed, plus some, were included in those lift station sizing calculations that shown the lift stations are currently sized to handle the shown future developments in those areas. So that has been taken into consideration. Next slide will be the Highway 37 utilities. This will be in conjunction with the DOT project of replacing Highway 37 to National Guard Road. We're replacing some outdated and an undersized VCP sanitary sewer, and then roughly a mile of ductile iron and asbestos cement water main.
There was doing core samples 2 weeks ago or a week ago there.
That was for our drawdown project.
Okay.
Yep. And we are sharing that information with the DOT. So we do have our pedestrian bridge that's part of the Highway 37 project. That'll go up and over the spillway. That'll be pretty cool and exciting when it's done. On the next slide, we'll have the North Harmon and Airport Lift Station project. So this is a unique project because we're able to eliminate 2 lift stations. So those areas will be all gravity fed through this new 12-inch line. That property is owned by Chuck Macheski to the west of 37. To the east of 37, I believe the property is Sand Ventures. We're currently working on easements through those properties before we get too far along in the design to make sure that is an acceptable route. This is just a great benefit to be able to eliminate the operation and maintenance of a lift station. And pumping is always, I don't want to say a liability, but it's not perfect. So this is a really exciting project for that area.
Just out of curiosity, will that new development on the east side of 37 be annexed into the city?
You mean the west side?
No, I'm talking about the development on the east.
It-
It already is.
Yep, what's in the,
The new one that's
yep,
going
the
on.
improvements that have been done, that is in the city, yep.
So this will accommodate that, that's part of what you're talking
No, this is actually north of that location.
about. Further north.
Yeah, the development's done
Yep.
in here.
Do you have a point?
This, oh, that's right.
Sorry.
Forgot.
That's a pointer.
Toys. Hey, I don't know.
It's actually usually what we use for, you guys turn
Smart
it
aleck.
on and then the red dot.
The red, okay. So where'd you go? So,
No, we're one more down, right?
right up
Yep.
here, this is the development that Ethan's doing,
Uh-huh.
which is north.
Go one more
South
slide
of
down.
Where we're,
There you go.
see, this is Airport Road,
Okay, yeah, okay.
Congo Club. Just because it's a kind of a picture. And this is the development, so this is all north of that.
Okay,
Yep.
got it. Thank you for.
So that's all gonna try to be gravity flowing.
Correct.
You want this?
No. I'll let you run it. The next slide is the Olman South Harmon Lift Station. This is another structure that's 50 years old. It's deteriorating. It's time to replace. Like we said, this falls into, the pumps that are in there are adequately sized. I believe they're roughly 10 years old as well. It's time for a new structure.
And can you give me perspective on this one, where this is?
Brooks is live right here.
Okay,
South Harmon's just to the north.
That's Jack Holtzberger.
Holtzberger.
Sorry, Holtzberger. So
Yeah.
this is South Lake.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you reuse the pump?
Oh, yeah, certainly. We, on situations like this, we typically we get new pumps and we throw the old ones on the shelf in case we run into issues. Yep.
They love installing those later. Right, John?
The big project, our south wastewater treatment plant. This is where we do the majority of our treatment for our sanitary sewer system. The estimated project cost was $30 million. This is where all of our grant money went for ARPA. So we're now down to $12,900,000 for this project. It's basically a facelift on the whole site. It's great timing because, we have the soybean plant coming to town. We're actively working with them to see to what treatment level they're going to bring us their product. So I guess as far as timing goes, it's great because we can account for that. We can also account for some potential additional industrial facilities that could be coming to town. So it's good how it all fell in line. We have a water main loop that we want to do on 13th and 12th where we experience a lot of water main breaks. We want to get this one done as soon as possible. I believe we spent a lot of time there last winter, didn't we, John?
Correct, I think we had 3 or 4 breaks.
Yep. So it'd be nice to get this one off the list. The sewer is PVC, so we're looking at just doing a half-street replacement, just as needed to replace the water main. This will have its challenges, keeping access to the people who live there, but we'll make sure that that's incorporated in the design, and we make sure we take care of everyone as far as access goes.
So Joe, how many blocks is that? Is that 3, 4 blocks?
So it's 2,200 feet. So rough calc.
9 block, 8 block.
Yeah, right, 7.
7, so you're looking at what, 140,000 a block?
You're really testing my mental
I'm
math
just
today.
checking, maybe Jeff would know that. Well, I was just, someone asked me what's it cost to put it in a block, and that'd be a good estimate.
Yeah, I mean, water main alone right now is running 60 to 70 bucks a foot, and you tack the asphalt on top of it, it gets expensive.
So that's just in the loop though area from Capitol,
Correct.
right?
Yep. Yep. West Harmon water main. We're going to complete a loop from the south and east of the lake up to the island. What's beneficial about this project, it will allow us to eliminate the water main that's currently on the bottom of the lake. Yeah, it's hard to describe where that one's at. I should have a picture of it. But yeah, there is a water main that's just laying on the bottom of the lake that feeds to the north. Obviously, it's in our best interest to get that out of there before the lake is empty.
It goes across, feeds the north side of Lake Mitchell.
And where are you going to put it? You have to take it out?
It goes away. It can be.
Yep,
it
we can abandon it. Yep.
We torn out when they dredge.
This also eliminates the need for a water tower in that location because of it's lower in the community, that the additional water loop actually ups the fire flows to the hydrants so much that we won't need a fire hydrant or a water tower in that location until we are looking at, a lot of expansion. The next 2 projects are not included on our ARPA plan, but they're in our 5-year outlook as we look at projects beyond our ARPA dollars. First Avenue from Burr to Foster, it's approximately 7 blocks. There's 3,300 feet of 4-inch cast iron water main and 3,300 feet of clay sewer. This will be complete reconstruction, right of way to line to right-of-way line, new curb, new asphalt, everything new, sidewalk. And then
Probably not during the school year.
there will definitely be some coordination with First. I mean, it's obviously a heavily used road, and we'll have to take all that into account.
And that would be a potential SRF project.
Yep, we'd look for SRF funding. And it's scheduled out 24, 25. Fifth Avenue, it's basically a mirror of First. Again, we're looking at 3,300 feet of 4-inch, and there's one block of 6-inch cast iron main, and 3,150 feet of clay sewer. Again, Fifth is a heavily traveled road. There'd be a lot of coordination as far as, providing access and those types of things.
2 years ago, did they go from First, or did they go from First to Burr? They did Fifth a few years ago.
They did
So-
from Main Street.
Main to Burr, yep. So that would then, we would have good utilities all the way from Sanborn to Foster.
How big is the sewer down there? They still lay clay in sewer?
No.
We don't lay clay now, no.
I
We
thought you
replace
said
it with
clay.
PVC.
Yeah, that's what's there.
Oh, that's
what's
what you're
there.
taking
That's
out.
what
I was gonna say,
we're
wow.
Yep. No, this is early infrastructure. And I mean, still 4-inch cast iron water mains. We're talking probably 19 teens or 1920s.
How big was the sewer we put back in?
I believe, it depends on the loading, it'd probably be 8-inch or 10-inch. Yep.
So you do the First Avenue, First Avenue in 24, 25, did you say, and then 25, 26?
Yep.
Is Fifth?
Yep.
There's no rest. It's never going to be done, is it?
Keep
Ever.
going. Just keep going.
Just keep going.
This table you've seen a lot of times. It's our SRF and ARPA funding. And we said that, First and Fifth is not included in our ARPA dollars, but I have been including it in these tables just so we can look at our rates, since they are projects we know we want to do. This is a table that it projects our rates out to $108 for a 5,000-gallon water user. A project that's not included in our SRF is our 3rd and Main Streetscape project. This will be the next intersection completed as part of the streetscape. There will be bump outs on Main Street as well as 3rd Avenue. We'll have to reroute some water main and some storm sewer to accommodate for the bump outs. There is an 18-inch clay sewer main that we'll replace that runs north and south on Main Street. Costs are roughly $700,000 with engineering.
So do we lose 8 parking spots with that, or are they the bump outs, like where the water hydrants are too close to the park?
So we would probably lose at least one per corner, potentially 2.
One on each side, right?
Yep.
I think it was one on each side when we did.
So, yeah, roughly 8 total.
Yep.
Bless you.
And then council tonight is requesting approval of the design contract for this project.
And I guess, just as a reminder, when Main Street brought this to council, I don't know, several years ago when they implemented the Main Street bid, instead of doing the bump outs on every intersection, they pared the design down, and this is considered an enhanced intersection. So it's the only one other than by the Corn Palace that will have the bump out on both sides. The rest of them are just some more green space, and you don't lose the parking on Main Street. It's just kind of bumped on the side. So this is what they considered the enhanced intersection out of the street.
The advantage of the bump out, is that just appearance, cosmetic?
It's supposed to be pedestrian crossings and slowing
Safer to
traffic
cross
down.
because you have less distance to walk in traffic.
And Joe, you said this was not included into the budget right now?
So it's in the budget, it's just not an SRF project. It would be taken in our enterprise funds and as well as general fund.
And then as far as the landscaping features, we take those out of the entertainment tax fund, out of a community beautification project.
I guess looking into the future, the plan then would be after this intersection is done, we'd look at doing 2nd and 4th the following year. And
That
then
one to have the bump outs, right?
just the bump outs on the side streets, similar to what 5th will look like.
Yep, I was just going to say to match Fifth Street.
Yep. And then the streetscape plan, with the exception of potentially railroad, the streetscape then would be complete.
That'll be so great.
And then on the next slide, I have the 1st and 7th signal light improvements. So that would be replacing the signal lights at those locations. The lights themselves, the signals, and the detection is roughly $250,000 to $275,000 apiece. And then the surfacing and ramps is roughly $90,000 to $95,000 apiece per intersection.
We should point out that these lights keep getting hit by semis.
The one at 7th got hit again on Sunday.
Some of them are loose enough that they spin in the wind.
Oh, we purposely leave them loose, that way we don't break anything.
What do we do with the old ones?
Right now, we're storing them out at the water plant, and we have, yeah. We keep these parts on hand just for that purpose, yep. Another project we have on the recycling side is we're looking at doing the recycling transfer center out at our landfill site. This will allow us to have one central, or I shouldn't say central because it's not in the city, but at least one location where our sanitation services are at. Right now, our current transfer facility is at the old landfill, and the building's not in good shape. We just had our insurance people go through it, and they had a bunch of improvements they wanted us to make for it. So we're hoping to get this up soon. We're going to have it in the budget this year. We're hoping for a 30% grant from the state, so that 2.68 will hopefully be less than that. And what we're projecting now is it will fit within our enterprise fund.
Was that planned on moving that location too?
Well, we talked about it last year because we started the design last year.
I want to look at it.
Yep.
No definite?
The design will be completed here shortly.
No, at the location.
Oh, you mean at the landfill? Yep. Our engineers have looked at it and decided that's the best location for it.
To move it to the landfill.
Yes,
Yep.
the idea was always to move it out there eventually.
It'll be a brand-new building.
Centralized,
Yep.
or have one location, really several.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's just finding the money and getting the enterprise fund.
So is this project potentially eligible for the state recycling dollars?
Yes, that's where the 30% grant we're hoping for.
Okay. And then if we end up doing this, is there any reason why we would keep the land where it's currently at?
Maybe,
There's a potential that we could use it.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there is an idea of still using it within the city, just a different use.
How many acres is it?
Well, it's the old landfill site, so I mean, it's big.
Yeah, there's,
Be pretty careful what you could put out there because it's a
Right.
former landfill.
Correct.
right, so it won't be anything that obviously would impact the old landfill ability, but it is something that would be a very good addition to Mitchell. So it's just a matter of whether it's there or they're looking at another location too, also, so. And it's, state would fund a big portion of what would be done out there.
How is the recycling doing? Are they keeping what they think, the amount that they thought they'd be getting, or are they?
Yeah, we've been level. We've been, we had talked at a previous meeting that we wanted to do some more outreach as far as getting the commercial businesses to participate, and we still need to push that forward. Like Jeff Miedema, he's on board. He's been participating. He's been real good advocate for us. I do know the communities around us are starting to talk about recycling, so I think we could potentially get some recycling from, the neighboring communities, because it is a cheaper rate than what our trash is, which is a benefit to our landfill. So I think we're moving in the right direction.
Do you feel like we need to do a little, like, do you feel like people kind of get lackadaisical about it and, you know, maybe not as diligent and vigilant as they were in the beginning? We need to kind of pump them up and be like, hey, guys, don't forget.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that's something we should do every year, a reminder
From
and,
my personal experience, I need a little shot in the arm once in a while, so,
sure.
I've been full every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
yeah. You guys are.
It's been good. And that wraps up Public Works capital projects. Are there any other questions before we move on? So next is Lake Mitchell. What are we doing on time? 5:30? This will kind of be the same setup. We'll review current projects that we have going, what we have planned for next year, and the future projects beyond that, and funding. Our current projects are Kelly Wetland Project, 30.7 acres of wetlands. Had a few bumps in the road on this one. Council tonight, I'm recommending approval of an archaeological survey that the Corps of Engineers is requiring, which pushes us back to probably bidding this winter, spring, with construction start next year.
What are we looking for?
Nothing. We're not looking for anything.
I mean, yeah, so are they doing this because they are concerned that we're gonna find something, or?
No, it's just its proximity to Lake Mitchell and the fire steel. It's like we did this on our live, or we had to do it on our Live State project, and there was no impacts.
They're gonna, I think they dig a few 3x3 holes and see if they find anything. Knock on wood, nothing shows up.
Yep. Phase 1 of the lake project was completed this last spring. Phase 2 was approved in the spring, and that included the drawdown structure design with bidding documents, as well as continuing the dredging design.
Looked like they were working out there this last week. Is that
Yep.
what they were working on?
They were completing soil borings to check the soils for structural stability, as well as they also have some monitors up to record soil movements or vibrations in the dam structure itself and the earth embankment. So, the drawdown project, that design should be finished up winter. So hopefully we can bid this spring. Estimated cost on the high end is $3.5 million. Best case scenario, start drawing down in 2023 to start construction. I'd say worst case scenario is if it was delayed for any reason, they'd start in the fall of 2024.
Yeah, that is $1 million higher than I thought it was.
So we had a range of roughly $2 to $4 million from the report. We are using this number just to make sure that we have enough. I mean, obviously, I hope it's lower than this. Just where we're at in the design, we don't have a definitive number, so for budgeting, this is what we felt comfortable with.
And when you said construction, you're talking about just construction of the drawdown structure
Correct.
as part of this 35, or
Correct.
3,500,000.
Yep.
So do you think it's good to do the drawdown before they do anything at fire, correct?
I think it's, if we're talking about strictly construction, I think it is beneficial to be doing around the same time.
I don't think you have a problem fixed coming in before you.
Now, if we're going to talk about nutrients, that's a different topic. But again, you know, what we've seen from the preliminary reports and those types of things is that, you know, the wetlands upstream are only going to help. Dredging the material is only going to help. If you're going to, I can't give you a definitive answer, yes or no. If I did, I probably wouldn't be standing here. I'd be working someplace else.
I'd give you a good answer. I think that if you don't clean it up coming in, why clean the lake if you're gonna have junk coming in like
Well, this wetland will start that, and there are other wetlands that are starting to progress upstream as well with meetings we've been having, so.
But if we start dredging before the wetlands, I mean, we're still waiting on the architectural or the.
You won't be dredging before the wetlands get going.
So yeah, the wetland project is projected, 23, early 24. We wouldn't be dredging until probably 24 to 26.
Is there any progress on the second one upstream yet?
So we want to get at least this project bid,
Kelly one.
so we can see the numbers. And as soon as we see those numbers and we see that
And
we have
numbers as
the
far as what? That's what,
cost of the project.
okay.
So right now, we have it estimated at 1.3 million. Our NPS funds, I want to say we're around 3. Does that sound right, Stephanie? We know the next location of where we want to go. Steve Donovan, who's administering our NACA grant, he's been working with some upstream landowners on some exciting projects in that area. So he's been working on getting those landowners on board, and if that's the case, then hopefully we have some steam moving forward as far as working on that next wetland project.
And how far are they out? Like, I know it's impossible to say. I mean, you're talking 2 years or you're talking 6 years?
You mean for the second wetland?
Second one. Impossible.
Yeah, once we started, I would say you could confidently say construction would be started within 2 years.
It took a year and a half to get this one going, didn't it?
Yep.
Kelly, so you're looking at 2 years down the road.
'Cause I drove up the creek last week, different areas, and I'd hate to see that stuff coming into the lake, because it's, the farther west you go out of town, the uglier it gets in that creek. If we get a 3-inch rain, all that comes in, it's going to be a lot of stuff coming in.
Well, the sediment, once we get our wetland created, you'll have 3 sediment ponds, which will collect that. And the drawdowns obviously needed to be able to maintain those. So as far as the sediment goes, we should start taking that out as soon as we have our wetland created. And then there are some additional opportunities that Steve Donovan's found to redirect the creek to create more wetlands, so.
Yep.
See, in the fire report, which I didn't care for them anyway, but they're in the report, it said up to 1,000 acres of wetlands. So what is really actually the total, what's going to be captured on Kelly's? We know, is it 37 acres or is it more than that?
It's the 30.7 is what's planned there.
So in their report, it called for 1,000. So we got 30, so we're only at 3%, Joe. This is what I get questions from the public about. Is that enough to start the project? I don't know. I can't answer that.
So as part of the bar design that we have now, there is water quality modeling that they're going to do for the project. And we had talked about the drawdown project has benefits beyond just dredging, because now we're able to draw down to allow people access to their property if they want to do improvements. A potential zebra mussel kill-off to a certain level. So the drawdown project itself, I feel, still has benefits beyond whether dredging happens now or however you want to say it.
So the 1,000 acres that's in FIRA, do we know that, I mean, we even changed our design on the Kelly property of the type of wetland that we were going to be using. So is it safe to say that there's different models or options that are out there? And then if that's the case, getting back to Danny's question, we know we have to start, but when do we know that we have enough acres?
And to Danny's question, I probably should know this. I'm sure Nathan Powell knew. I don't know if that 1,000 acres is through the whole watershed or additional.
I think it was through the whole watershed.
DW says something about it, I can't remember what they're.
Well, DW is looking at the watershed we're putting in, or the wetland we're putting in conjunction with the lake. And the more water or wetlands you get, the better your nutrient removal will be.
And what Dakota Wesleyan found is, and they said it was very simple calculations, was that if you dredge half the sediment and you have the Kelly wetland working efficiently, that it would have a benefit to the lake, to the point of potentially preventing algae blooms. And they were confident to say that.
Well, we don't know if the Kelly project is going to be working right until we actually see the final finish, which is cattails growing, everything coming in. So is that from start? And so they started next August.
Yep,
Because it is wetlands down there.
yep.
So we're talking, we'll see maybe benefits out of that 2 years down the road?
I would say, you know, the vegetation would probably be established at least 1 year after the project was complete, yep. The next slide I have is talking about the actual, or I guess the next dredge design. There still needs to be one more phase to the dredge design to bring us to a biddable project. That's estimated at $680,000. And like I said, that brings us to a biddable dredge project.
Can you tell us what the code is there? I can't read it. Like the purple is.
Oh, that's just a heat map of our major sediment deposits based off depth, yep.
So the red's the worst?
Correct. Yep, that would be where the existing creek channel is.
Which
Yep.
is tricky, right? If that's where the worst sediment is, then that's where the creek channel is.
Yep, yep.
We need that.
Are they still talking half a lake?
So if we get to the next slide, I have the estimated costs 15 to 20 million. And the reason the range is depending upon how much sediment is removed. So you remove more sediment, it costs more dollars. And the dredge project schedule, you know, would be 24, 26, depending on how everything else lays out. And once we get further along in the design, we can start making a more defined budgetary and material removal decisions. How about next slide? So that kind of starts talking about funding. We are currently, our state water plan will expire this fall, so we're looking to reapply with BAR's information and their cost estimates, which would mean January 1 could be a potential SRF loan application. Interest rate 2.125 for 30 years. Stephanie, did you want to talk about the?
I guess the point that got us talking about SRF funding is the state had previously told us that they would allow us to do an application, an SRF application, in order to finance the Lake Mitchell dredge. Because we're to a point next year in the budget where you're going to be planning for significant design costs, as well as maybe up to $3.5 million on constructing the drawdown structure. The discussions we had is it's probably to a point where you need to decide if you're moving forward or not. One of the ways that you could do this, because you need financing in place, would be to apply for the SRF application. And then Joe has a formula table that he got from DENR at one point, and we do know that that anticipated debt service payment would be about $800,000 a year, I believe? $900,000 a year. That amount could be decreased by any other revenue offsets that you have. So you could use some of the money that we have set aside for those future capital projects. You could use any money that is raised in fundraising from Friends of Fire Steel. You could use money from the sale of the Kelly property. We could use any, if the conditional use permit that's going to be on the agenda in a couple weeks is approved, and we could get a sales tax report from that business, we could use sales tax earned from that business towards it. You could use the new property taxes from that property as well as the Kelly property.
As well as Joe Kippis. We
The Kelly, that's what I meant, Joe Kippis'
Joe
property.
annexed into the city with the understanding that we would use the additional tax money to go
Right.
towards Lake Metro.
But I guess what I'm wanting is if we're going to continue to push forward, we're at a point where we've invested a significant amount of money into this project, and we don't want to get halfway down the road next month or next year and find now we've spent our capital improvements plan, our project fund, and now we're not going to move forward, because then we don't have that money to commit to something else. This would give you an opportunity to go on the record if you want to move forward, and I guess I've heard from some of you that there are discussions that people are going to refer any decision that the council makes on the lake. If that's the case, that application process would come along with a public hearing. It would give the public the opportunity to refer that if you think that's going to happen. But more than anything, it would secure the funding for moving forward so that we know that you have the funding in place to move forward before you spend another, almost $750,000 on additional design that maybe we're not ready to carry forward. The other thing is, in just looking where we're at with our budget this year, we're still at a $1.2 million shortfall before our departmental meetings this week. I would hate to stick the $3.5 million out of our future capital fund reserves towards this if it's not going to go forward. I don't want to, I want to make sure that we're putting our money into those projects that are going to go so that we have that money available to us. I think it's a smart move to do. The other thing is, because SRF rates are so low, that interest rate you can see 2.125 for 30 years, I don't think you could get a loan for anything else. You're not going to be able to go issue bonds at that rate, and you're not going to get them for 30 years. You're limited in the years for a sales tax bond. So this would be probably the cheapest way for you to finance it, and then you could just kind of use that reserve fund for making your debt service payments as these other revenue streams come in. It's really a topic for discussion tonight. Mayor, you can.
Something else to consider is if we want to look at some of those lots that are mixed in with the current housing out there and try to go to the public to sell those, if we want to know we're going to have a project before we have the city vote on it, I think it would be better received by the residents of the city knowing what's going to happen there, rather than a speculation that here's our plan, but we might not do it. So,
Joe, did you have more for your presentation?
I do.
Okay.
I guess while we're on that topic, I'll just run through some quick information on the lake. As you all know, I'm sure, the lake was built in 1928. That would make it 94 years old. Now, with these lakes, they do have a design life. I want to, don't quote me on this, but I'm fairly for certain when they did this that the design life was around 100 years. So we're close to that. In the past, we did replace the spillway, which is a maintenance that then stretches that useful life. But the material that we have in the bottom of the lake, you could consider the lake bottom to be eutrophic, which would start to signify the end of the lake's life, because it's the blue-green algae blooms make it unsafe for swimmers and animals, etc. And with the lake our size, all the studies have shown, our lake is 693 acres, with our watershed being 350,000 acres. It's just, you don't see lakes of our size to have this large of watershed. So I guess it's not, I want to say it's not abnormal that we don't have this, that we have this issue, but there is a design life for lakes, and I just wanted to make everyone aware that that is a man-made lake and there is an expiration date.
So do you know how deep it was estimated when they started and how deep it is now?
So the deepest sediment I believe that they found is 7 to 8 feet. 7 to 8 feet.
Right, that's the deepest right now.
that's the depth of the sediment.
Depth of the sediment. The deepest part of the lake is roughly 23 feet.
And do you know when it was originally?
So the original lake was actually 2 feet lower, because when we built the new spillway, I believe we brought it up 2 feet. So I would assume it would have been around that 25, 23, somewhere around in there. So I believe when the 23 feet takes into the account the sediment depth that's in there,
Oh,
I believe.
The original spillway was over by where the structure, that concrete structure is, and it went washed out once, which is when they moved it to where it is today.
That's what was happening, so. That's why I was surprised.
Well, and really, a lake our depth, the sediment's not the issue, it's just what's in the sediment, the nutrients.
So I guess this would be our proposal of future discussions with the council of a way to get us moving forward, knowing that we're not committing funds to something that's not going to continue moving forward.
Then we have the jetty project after this, because it's not really associated with the SRF funds. So we did receive a $1 million EDA grant, which includes 6,140 feet of bike trails along with the jetty. Estimated project cost is $2 million, and that's doing construction with water in the lake. If the water is receded, then it becomes cheaper.
Then the thing to remember is the matching funds that are required. The city council has already designated that in our capital projects fund, so we have that ready, that project fully funded, ready to go next year.
Joe, I have a lot of people who tell me that's not the best location. Are we locked into that location at this point?
Yes,
Yes.
we are.
Yes,
Because the
we are.
design has been completed for that location.
Part of what people are looking at, they think it'd be better to have it over by the highway, but the bank is too steep. If you go through the study from the National Park Service, they lay out why they selected this area. Parking was one of the items. If you go over the campground, you don't have the parking. If you go over by Kibbe Park, you don't have the parking. You also have steeper banks and various things. So some of the people that have contacted me, I've pointed these things out to them, which I haven't heard back from, so I'm assuming it's answering some of their questions, but, so.
But they do say, the concern is that it's so open to the elements in this area, so.
That's why the jetty goes in, is to protect that. That creates a breakwater like they have it at Cedar Shores.
So if you look at a aerial view of the lake, the majority of it is from northwest to southeast. So the longest wind row through there is basically past the point, straight down. There is a path that gets you there. This is tucked out, just out of that wind row, but then you have the jetty there for any wind that does come. So as far as the wind and the location, not too concerned with that. And like the mayor said, the report that looked at this location, they looked at the locations all around the lake. And they took into account, the slopes coming from land to the lake, the slopes within the water. Their selection was fairly elaborate, they definitely looked at, and this spot was selected.
I think that's the biggest thing that we need to let people know, because I get that question too. It's not that we, or the city or the council picked this location. It was picked by those that do this for their professionalism, on lakes and stuff like that. So it's what they pointed out to us, and not us choosing it for them, so.
Correct.
Joe, on this design right here, do we have the cost in for rerouting the road?
We do not.
And that is, though, Olman will have to be rerouted, right?
Not Olman, South Harmon,
Or, I mean Harmon, I'm
or
sorry.
excuse me,
Oh,
West Harmon.
Yeah.
That would be rerouted for the dredge.
Right.
Not necessarily the jetty project.
So when the dredge project
Right.
is, when we know what year the dredge project will happen, we'll more than likely the year before install a new road bypassing, the horseshoe or
Okay,
whatever you want to call it.
I got you.
Going across here.
Okay,
Yep.
all right,
Section line.
Yeah.
yeah, right.
So I suppose we have, 3-4 minutes for questions?
Nothing for Joe or Stephanie or anybody else? Okay, thank you.
know, Stephanie, you're looking for verbal,
I'm not looking really for anything tonight. I think we would schedule that for action on a future agenda item. We'll have to bring back to you, I think, in September, right, Joe, for the lake getting onto the state plan? Were we saying September for that?
Yep, and getting it on the state water plan is all of our studies that we want eligible for SRF
Right.
funding go on the state water plan. It just allows us then to take the next step to apply for a loan.
Yep, and then, so then the application would be due to the state, well, the next round would be in January, so
Yep.
we would,
We'd bring a state water plan application at the next meeting, and then potentially, our SRF projects, we go through the public hearing that talks about, the project and costs associated. That would be more than likely in October, November, if we wanted to go for the January 1 deadline.
Good? Okay. You good? Couple minute break, and then we'll go into regular council meeting. allegiance. Invocation by Northridge Baptist.
Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, we pause at the beginning of this meeting to recognize your authority here, and even as those words are posted on our wall, in you we trust, dear Lord, we declare our need of you tonight. We pray that you would just bring us together in unity, humbly before you and one another, realizing that we have a similar goal in mind, Lord, to see this community, this town, this city moving forward. And our desire is that it be a place, Lord, where people are able to come and experience a community that's blessed by you. And we know that we need to have that in our minds and be humbly following you in this, Lord. So we thank you that we can find refuge in you and that we can trust in you for your leading and guiding tonight. So, Father, we open ourselves to that and pray this all in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Roll call.
Sabers.
Here.
Rice.
Here.
Dosher. McCardle.
Here.
Barrington.
Here.
Allen.
Here.
Charks.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Approval of consent agenda items. Items appearing on consent agenda may be removed by a council member for discussion beginning with formal agenda items. Is there anything you wish to remove?
Nothing to remove, Mayor, but just point out that there are 2 appointments that you made in the consent agenda.
We do. Wendy Linke will be appointed to the Community Service Advisory Board, and Tiffany Batdorf will be appointed to the Corn Palace Board as the Chambers member. For Convention and Visitor Bureau. Okay. Anything else?
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address any of these?
Mr. Mayor and Council, Chief Coster with the Police Department. Under item K, we had a police department vehicle that was scheduled to be surplused and then sold on Purple Wave. We will continue to surplus that vehicle, but due to supply chain and issues with maintenance, we are going to be using that vehicle for parts to keep patrol vehicles operating. We've actually needed parts off of it last week. So it'll still be surplus, but not sold.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody else wish to address anything? Roll call.
Dosher. McCardle. Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Charks. Smith.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Motion carries. Citizens input. If you need to address the mayor, members, city council, an item that's not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium, state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken. Let me start out before you jump in there, please. Corn Palace, over the weekend, TikTok Corn Kid. Is that right, Doug?
Yes, made famous on TikTok anyway.
Little guy that went viral. He must be 6 or 7 years old. Came to visit. Doug's staff put some stuff together for him. He I guess became famous over eating sweet corn, and he just loved the Corn Palace, from my understanding. We got some emails from the Convention of Visitors, or the State Department of Tourism, that thanked our staff and gave them kudos for what they did, and we also got one from the Secretary of the Department of Tourism for what was done Saturday for this young man. So thank you, Doug. Thank you to your staff. Good job. Madam.
Yes, sir. I'm Elizabeth with Mitchell Main Street and Beyond. I'm the events manager, and Ashley's the MS director over there. Thank you guys for Oktoberfest. This year's going to be October 8th from 11 to 4. We revamped the games. We're going to be doing some really cool stuff. I highly encourage you guys to come out. We're bringing the Wiener Dog races back. So if you know people in the area, Coborn's is going to help sponsor it again this year. We got a lot more community involvement. I'm very excited for it. It's going to be great. We're going to get the college kids more involved too, so it's just going to be really nice. Thank you. I saw a lot of faces at this last First Fridays that we just had, so thank you that came out. They brought their dogs. We had a dog talent show, best dress. You can see the pictures on Facebook, and the Mary Kay unveiling and ribbon cutting. that JP announced for us. So thank you for who came out and all your guys' sponsors, and thank you.
Chief Coster's looking forward to the wiener dog races.
It is a good time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address council?
I do have one thing real quick. Kind of exciting news. Affordable Housing's their first house came in today, and I was watching them put it on the foundation. It's on the Raleigh Street, right block west of Westling, where they tore down the old house. And so it's be putting up. It'll be done by tomorrow as far as on the foundation and ready for sale.
It's a nice looking house.
Hi,
Mrs.
Sonia
Van Hardwick.
Vanderwick from Mitchell Township. I just want to talk tonight a little bit about election integrity in South Dakota. Many of you probably realize something went awry in the 2020 presidential election, but there were also issues in the primary in 2022. South Dakota Canvassing was created and took the results and presented that information on Frank's speech, and people from all over South Dakota now have been talking about why is a third party controlling our elections and hiding the data. Astonishingly, a mathematical anomaly happened in all counties in South Dakota with the governor and U.S. Senate races, in which all reported 75 to 25% vote. In the U.S. House race, the percentage of reported votes was 60 to 40%. This was an obvious algorithm, and in Aurora County, votes were reported, and then in the morning, the vote numbers went down. All machines in the state are compromised and can be hacked. We have been blocked from getting cast vote records, which would have shown exactly what the numbers were of the votes versus what was reported. Freedom of Information Act request letters have been sent to every county asking for this information. It has been in Davison County as well, and all the county commissioners, county auditors, state's attorneys, attorney general, and secretary of state's office. This canvassing group contacted the newly formed Freedom Caucus to get some help. And what they did is they petitioned the legislators to help, and the governor said, let's deal with the legislative session, but they had a meeting last Friday, which included Secretary of States that wanted to be in attendance, citizens, and then all these Freedom Caucus members and other legislators that wanted to be there. I watched online as I wasn't able to be there, but what we found out is that all counties have these tabulators that can actually create a text and an image file. That is in Mitchell as well. The central machine that's available in 4 counties, which is Davison County, we are the ones that have the thumb drives and we can create the Excel reports. It's the primary record that is encrypted, and so we have the software or electionware that we can decrypt all this. Why is this important? It's important because in South Dakota, if we have these percentages 75-25 and 60-40 in every county, something's going on from the time that they're being reported to the time that they go to the state. So the way that we can find out is to get these cast vote records. Now, another friend and I went today and talked to Susan Kepke about it. The weird thing is all the county auditors throughout the state do not know that they have these cast vote records and that they can access them. And that the 4 counties, Davison County being one of them, actually has the electionware to be able to say, okay, are we having fair elections? What's happening? Because we've got a third party that has these machines access to, and obviously there's something going on. So we are looking very forward to hearing from Susan. We gave her the information on how she can access that information. She has told us that she's keeping these votes secure, and one of the main reasons was there's 22 months and then they're supposed to delete the votes, and that would have been Saturday. So she has told us that she will, keep the votes secure and get back to us in regards. So just wanted you to know about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Simpson. Come on up.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Steve Simpson. Recently, I read a report in the Mitchell Republic regarding the maintenance issues we're having with the Indoor Aquatic Center. And that report reminded me of the $1 million pledge the Mitchell Aquatic Club made toward the construction of that facility. So that caused me to wonder how much of that $1 million have we received so far?
800,000.
800,000 we received so far? Excellent. Thank you for the, I guess you gave me the input, not me giving you the input tonight. Thanks, Mayor.
Yep. Anybody else wish to address council?
Yeah, I got one quick thing. I've had people ask me what the results of our festival was this week, and I just curious if Doug's got any numbers.
Sure, I can give you an update. Doug Greenway, Corn Palace Director. I sent some information out to the press, and we are getting most of our numbers finalized, so we kind of see where we're at with the whole festival. And we have a board meeting next Tuesday, and we'll have all that available. We felt festival is successful, obviously the 24th through the 28th. The Gold Star amusement revenue, that comes from the rides, so the ridership. the percentage that the city gets from the food that Gold Star Amusement sells and the percentage of the games of chance. We get the 30% of that as well. So that was up 6% from 2021 to $48,700. So that was an increase, and last year was that was a very high number for past history. Cast sponsorships were up 15% over 2021, so that was good. We had $26,000 in cash sponsorships. Then that we also have the in-kind sponsorships that we use for use of parking lots, furniture, those kinds of things. Concert-wise, we felt we had a good selection of concerts, and there was something for every genre. Those that attended the shows were pleased with the shows. We felt lots of positive comments, and they had a good concert experience. Disappointed in ticket sales, especially the Russell Dickerson show was an expensive show for us, and who had been selling out across the country, and we didn't come even close to that. And our tickets prices we felt were reasonably priced, and even had a special kind of a two-for deal that some people took advantage of, but not enough. So the Randy Houser concert was on Thursday night. We had 722 in attendance. The Russell Dickerson concert on Friday night was 1,045. Night Ranger on Saturday was 951, and the Music of Randy Travis show was 658. And then, of course, our staff and board will immediately begin planning 2023. We have a long list of things that we'll look at updating and changing, and take a good look at how we get our concerts to be, close to breaking even. If we can get close there, our other revenue from festival will cover. It includes beverage sales at concerts and the sponsorships and the ridership on the rides and things like that. So full report at the board next Tuesday, but that's kind of the basics we have right now. And certainly answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Good enough? Okay, thank you. Anybody else wish to address council? Okay. Board of Adjustment, entertain a motion for City Council recess, sit as Board of Adjustment. Motion by Mr. Barrington, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing and action on application for Troyer Homeworks on behalf of James and Margot Taylor. Troyer Homeworks on behalf of James and Margot Taylor has applied for a variance for a minimum side yard setback of 0 feet versus 20 feet to construct a three-season room on an existing deck located at 723 West 4th, legally described as Lot 6 and west half of Lot 5, Block 100, Lawler, 2nd Edition, City of Mitchell-Davidson County. Property is zoned R2. Mr. Janegas.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this 7-0. It was notified in the paper. Letters were sent out to the neighbors. 21 letters were sent out. 5 were returned in favor. Discussion during Planning Commission. It's an old coal chute that the deck sits over top. There used to be a fence that actually encroached on the right-of-way. That got tore down a few years ago. So now they'd like to put a three-season porch over top of about 2/3 of the existing deck. It sits back far enough away from 4th Avenue, which is actually a one-way street, so it's not in the site triangle. There shouldn't be any safety concerns with it at all. The homeowner is going to make it look as close as he can to go along with his historic building that he has there. The applicant is here if you have any questions for him, or I can answer any questions you have as well.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Savers. Second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion?
I was just going to say, it looks like all of the neighbors were are very supportive of this, so, yeah. Second.
Okay. Anybody in the audience wish to address this? Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing 9/19/22. Jacob and Jenna Sunny have applied for conditional use permit to operate a family residential daycare located at 1120 Sunnyside Court, legally described as Lot 10 of R.W. Mueller's First Edition, subdivision of Block 7 and 8, Sunnyside Edition, City of Mitchell-Davidson County, South Dakota. Property zoned R4. Mr. Janegas, you just set the date, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just here in case you have any questions.
Why are you standing there yet? No.
I can go sit down.
I'm just kidding. You're all right.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Barrington, second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing 9/19/22 Flats on Havens LLC has applied for conditional use permit to operate a multifamily dwelling located at 1525 West Havens, legally described as Block 4, Sunnyside Addition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota, except the east 175 feet thereof, except the north 151.45 feet of the west 167 feet thereof, except the north 50 feet of the west 50 feet of the south 165 feet of the east 55 feet, Block 4 thereof, and except lots H4 and H5. The said property is HB Highway Business. Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this?
So excited.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing 9/19/22. I-Wings LLC has applied for conditional use permit to operate an assembly hall located at 40580 250th Street, legally described as Kelly Track 1, a subdivision of southwest quarter of the southeast quarter. Kelly Tracks 1A and 2, a subdivision of south half of the southeast quarter, west 208.75 feet of the south 208.75 feet of the southeast quarter of the southeast quarter, all in Section 36, Township 104, North, Range 60 West, 5th Prime Meridian, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Real property zone are UD Urban Development. Motion by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this?
Are we on track for the sale, Justin?
So far, we're moving in that direction, so.
So we get to find out the same time the public gets to find out, don't we?
That's the way it looks like.
Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Reconvene the City Council. Entertain a motion for Board of Adjustment to adjourn the City Council to reconvene regular session.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Allen. Second, Mr. Rice. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing and action on the application of the Palace City Lions for a special event liquor license located at DW Sherman Center for September 30th, 2022 for the DW Alumni Blue and White Unite.
Mayor and Council, Chief Coster of the Police Department, we have no concerns about this and recommend approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing and action on the application of the Scoreboard Pub and Grill for a special event liquor license located at Iverson Auto South Building and parking lots for October 8th, 2022 for a private event. Mr. Coster?
Mayor and Council, we have no concerns of this either and recommend approval.
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Sabers. Second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience want to speak to this?
What is this event, Austin?
Like me to come up and announce my name. Austin Iverson, so basically tying the knot. Long story short, hard to find wedding venues, so we're going to do it at the dealership.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, congratulations.
Definitely. Thank you. Yep. So we got like 7 acres of paved asphalt up there, so I hope that it's going to be big enough, even including parking, so hopefully it doesn't back up onto Burr Street, but we should be good.
You can put a for sale sign in some of the cars.
Yeah, exactly. Well, really, it's all just a big old marketing ploy, is really what it is.
Good
But,
idea. All
you know,
right.
so write it off to advertising.
Did I overlook your firework permit?
Anybody else wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve special event license for Raise 'em Rank bull riding September 16th through September 17th. Mr. Greenway, you speaking to this one?
Sure, I just mentioned to the council, Doug Greenway, Corn Palace Director, this is a new event, not the rodeo that had been held in the Corn Palace for several years. This is a new contractor, Dylan Swanson, Canton, South Dakota, with Raise 'em Rank, and bringing indoor bull riding, and a special component of that is youth bull riding, ages 6 to 16. So this is the state championships. The winners get to go to the national competition in Texas later in the year. So they'll have, and they ride miniature bulls. So think of a 6-year-old riding a full-grown 3 or 4-year-old bull, but only 400, 500 pounds. And then they have, they're bringing back some alumni bull riders to ride, and then, of course, they'll have the regular bull riding competition. And so we've requested to close the east side of the city parking lot for corral setup and loading livestock and things like that, much like it had been before. And then something new with this event is they're having an after events, one at the back 40 on Friday night and one at the Corn Palace Plaza on Saturday night. And we are supporting the one on Saturday night, obviously, in the plaza. But invite everyone to come out and watch bull riding in the Corn Palace on the 16th and 17th of September.
Motion by Mr. McCardle.
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve special event permit for the 437 project on September 24th, 2022. Mr. Schrader, you going to speak to this, or is Mr. Pastor going to say something?
I can introduce it.
Okay.
The 437 project is requesting a special event permit for Saturday, September 24th, from 10 to 11. It's a group of 12 runners running relay style from Belle Fourche to Sioux Falls. Their main mission is to raise awareness for mental health. I don't know if you've seen, they've been on the radio lately promoting this, or excuse me, TV promoting this. The permit requests, it's not really a road closure. They will be running within the roadway down Main Street, briefly stopping at the Corn Palace, which they do have the Corn Palace Plaza reserved. And then they will be departing down First Avenue and ultimately leaving on 38. There will be pilot cars ahead and behind of the runner as they run through town. They are working with the chamber and Mr. Greenway on the event, and with that, I'll let Doug add any more if he wants to.
It's just a mental health, suicide awareness event where they're running across the state of South Dakota, and it's got the support of Avera Health, and originally was going to be an afternoon event, and it's because of the timing of the running has moved into the evening. That's also the big car show day and our National Pedal Pole Day, but the city should be fairly calmed down by the evening when they run downtown.
And during the internal review, there were concerns brought up about a runner within the driving lane at night.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Rice.
Second.
Second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve release of easement for Kippis Wedgewood Estates. Mr. Schrader.
Mr. Mayor, Council, the residents along the Lakeview Golf Course Access Road would like to vacate 15 feet of a 20-foot easement that borders their south property line. It was previously meant to be a drainage ditch. Since then, there has been storm sewer and some other improvements done. They noted in their application that even in 2019, they didn't have any issues when we had the big rain in September. We did get a release from the utility companies. However, there were some issues with the legals. So if they tidy those up, staff recommends approval and grant authorization for the mayor to sign the release contingent that we get the updated signed releases from the utility companies. I think the reasoning for this is there's a part of their yard they can't use because if they install something within that area and the utility company wants to come through, they can tear right through it at no cost to the property owner. So I think they're just looking to get some of their yard back and be able to get some more useful part of their property back.
It's storm sewer?
Correct.
There's still an area next to the road, north of the road, that can be used, correct?
It's be considered a general easement area. It was initially meant for drainage, but it's still reserved by the utility companies as an easement.
What's on the outside of the trees?
Correct.
It's on the north side.
So we still have a full right-of-way plus an additional 30 feet where the sidewalk is. So as far as our situation goes, the city has no objections with this release.
Move to approve condition on the legal entities coming through.
Motion by Mr. Rice,
Second.
second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve agreement, or excuse me, amendment to agreement A 2022-15, Quint Street Design with SPN. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council, SPN Associates is currently under contract for the design of Quincy Street from Miller to the east edge of Mr. Jensen's property. As we were going through the design, it was decided to extend that through Quincy Street to assist with the drainage in that area and to make sure the water, for the most part, stayed within the right-of-way, and there were some grading issues type thing. So with that, SPN is requesting an additional $10,200 for that additional design work. We do recommend approval. This will be brought forward as an assessment project within the next month or two, and hopefully construction could start yet this fall.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Rice,
Second.
second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve agreement A 2022-32 Kelly Wetland Project 2021-41 with Kogel Archaeological Consulting Services. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council, the Army Corps of Engineers, as part of the permitting process for the Kelly Wetland Project, is requiring a Level 3 Cultural Resource Survey. What that includes is a search for surveys or cultural resources previously identified, examine historic atlas and plat maps, conduct a pedestrian survey and a subsurface evaluation to evaluate the likelihood of buried cultural resources. The findings will be prepared in a final written report suitable for SHPO's review with a recommendation. We do recommend that you approve the proposal at a fee not to exceed $6,800. The survey will be completed by January 28th of '23.
So if they find something there, a bunch of bones,
Then we are looking at a new archaeological location site.
So when are they coming back with the final?
It would be, the final is they have January 28th of '23.
So they go out there in the middle of winter time and dig around, or what?
He plans to do his field work in October.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Charks.
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve agreement A 2022-33 3rd Main Street Scape Improvements Project 2022-26 with McLaury Engineering. Mr. Schrader.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Council, the attached agreement provides a proposal for implementing the Main Street streetscape at 3rd. The design includes bump outs on all 4 intersections into Main Street and into 5th. With that, we'll need to reroute some water main and storm sewer, and we'll also replace an 18-inch clay sanitary sewer pipe that goes north and south on Main Street. Confluence is also a part of the design team. They prepared or assisted in preparing our original streetscape project. They've helped with 6th Street, the plaza, as well as 5th. It should be noted that McLaury and Confluence are also the design team for our 5th and 9th project, and 5th includes the Main Street streetscape as well. We are also utilizing PE Group, or I should say McLaury is utilizing PE Group, which is an electrical engineer for work included in the streetscape design as well as our streetlights. Design will be completed this upcoming winter with bidding to follow, and construction will be in '23. Staff recommends approval for McLaury Engineering for a fee not to exceed $77,456 on an hourly basis. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Charks. Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Nay. One nay. Action to approve agreement, motion carries, sorry. Action to approve agreement A 2022-34, rural fire protection and suppression services for the Mitchell Rural Fire District. Mr. Larson.
Mayor and Council, Marius Larson, Chief of Fire and EMS. This is a renewal. It's a 9-year contract to match up with what we have with Mitchell Township so that they both sunset at the same time. The past contract, I believe, was for 5 years. This is just a new one. Nothing has changed within the contract except for they requested a monthly report from myself, and then they also wanted the payments listed out also that you'll see in there. Other than that, it's the same contract.
So I was just curious about the 9-year length of the contract. We don't typically.
No, that's correct. So basically, we did a 10-year with Mitchell Township, and so we're 1 year into that one. And so to have them sunset at the same time, we're going to do a 9-year with Mitchell Rural Fire Association so that they're both due in the same year, 10 years from now or whatever, so when I'm retired.
If I can add one other thing, it's really difficult for us to make significant changes to the contract when one is already in an agreement and the other one has a lot of time left on their agreement. By putting them both expiring at the same time, we'll be able to negotiate that fee at the same time. It's been difficult because they're all coming due at different times, so you're kind of locked into whatever the other contract has.
I know it's a moot point, but why did we go with a 10-year?
Mitchell Township approached us just at the end of Linden before I came in. Instead, they wanted to do a 10-year just because they didn't want to deal with it, anymore. They like the agreement between them and the city, and they were willing to do a 10-year. We had no issue with that, so that's why we did that long of one with Mitchell Township, and we felt that the same way with the Fire Association also. So.
Motion by Mr. McCardle. Second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to award pump station and ground storage reservoir project 2020-20. Mr. Schrader.
Mr. Mayor, Council, bids were open on August 24th in City Hall Council chambers at 1:30. We received 2 bids, with the low being Stanek Constructors, Inc. for $11,518,800, just over the engineer's estimate of $11,380,000. Phil Gundelson, professional engineer with Infrastructure Design Group, provided a letter summarizing the bids and recommending the award. In the staff report, I do have a breakout of the project funding. Our total project cost, we still have one additional project to bid as part of this overall project, being the water main distribution improvements, miscellaneous piping throughout town to implement, rerouting our distribution from the north end of town to the south. Our contingencies at this current point are $161,200, so it's tight, but I feel like our bid was probably better than what I thought it was going to be. I'll be honest, I thought it was going to be more. So with that being said, with the estimated project total cost of being $16 million, we still need an increase of $7.84 to our base rate, which is consistent with what we've been presenting to council over the last year and a half. And staff recommends awarding the project to Stanek Constructors. We ask that you award it contingent on DA&R approval and acquiring the additional funds.
Is there any case in which DNR wouldn't approve?
No. Not that I can foresee, anyway.
I think the bigger issue is moving forward with the rate increase so that you have that set. You know, anytime you're awarding a bid before you've closed on loans, we're fronting that money until those loans are closed with the SRF, so.
Stanek does plan to start in the spring. They do not plan on starting this fall.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing and action to approve Resolution R 2022-46, levying Business Improvement District Number 3 special assessments for 2022-2023. Mrs. Bathke, are you speaking to this?
Sure. This is the 5th year of the bid number 3 assessment. The assessment due for 2022-2023 is $51,146.17. This is a little bit of an increase from last year. The valuations went up on the properties. It was last year the total assessment due was $43,567.39. Last year, the assessment was $43,567.39. So yeah, about $7,000.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion? You want to say anything, Jeff?
How many years was that? Do you remember? 5?
I think 7, right, Justin?
7? Okay. And what does it got to do? Come back?
Let Justin answer.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've looked at that, but it was an initial term of 7 years. And I think the way that it was structured is that it would renew for another 7 years unless there was, unless the property owners came back with a petition of greater than 50%. So.
Sure. Okay, thanks.
And this money does go back as grants and for improvements, low-interest loans for improvement to Main Street if they want to apply for it. So.
As well as they are also contributing to the streetscape, which was asked by the council for us to move forward with that project.
Correct. Okay. Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Second reading on ordinance O 2022-12, rezoning northeast quarter Lot A of C. Anderson's first edition of Section 35, Township 103 North, Range 60 West of 5th Prime Meridian, Davis County, South Dakota, from urban development to industrial development. Mr. Jenigas.
Mr. Mayor and Council, if you recall, Planning Commission recommended approval of this 4-0 with 1 abstaining and 2 absent. There was 1 letter sent back that was in favor of it. The reason they'd like to do this, it's a good location for them to develop it. They're looking for maybe light commercial, trucking warehouse, commercial suites. It's not adjacent to the city of Mitchell, so it can't be annexed just yet. There'd be some more steps that would have to go through there. It's within the ETJ. It's by MTC, and then Dakota Fest is to the north, and the sale barn is to the west. And so the triangle would have to get annexed in, or all of Schlafman's would have to get annexed in order for them to touch, or the sale barn. There's services out in that area. Any plan that they would bring in front of us for building permit would have to have a civil site plan stamped. One of the concerns from the neighbor to the north is just the drainage in the area. But anything that gets done out there will have to be seen through Public Works before it could be approved. It's just a concept from changing from urban development to industrial to give them more options out there.
Do they have some ideas of what they would want to put there?
They've talked about a trucking warehouse or commercial suites like up on Omen, just something like that. There is a pivot in that corridor that gets water from wastewater treatment plant. They can switch that from a full pivot to a half pivot or quarter, whatever they end up developing. They'd like to obviously do probably a quarter of it or a half at a time instead of just a small piece. They're going to do a quarter of the quarter, half of the quarter. The applicant is available by phone if we need to call him for any questions that you might have.
The only concern that I had the Sloffman family called me, they're in Sioux Falls. They wouldn't be here, but you did address the drainage.
Yeah, I've talked with him. Actually, the applicant called and talked with him as well, saying that anything that they do will have to be developed for the site to mitigate any potential. He knows that they could have to have a retention pond out there for drainage, that they have to release it at the rate of what it is now, or whatever our ordinance is.
Yep, so they'll be required to follow our ordinance. So they'll have to go through what everyone else does when they're developing commercial property.
Move to place on second reading. Second.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. McCardle. Discussion? Roll call.
Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Charts. Aye. Smith.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Motion carries. Second reading on ordinance O 2022-13, rezoning lots 6, 7, and 8, block 18 Weavers Square Addition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota, from R3 medium density residential district to highway business. Mr. Janigas.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this 4-1 with 2 absent. They're requesting to rezone because they'd like to put some storage units on that location there. It's contiguous kitty corner. One of the neighbors came in with concerns that it needs to be cleaned up in that area, so this would actually probably clean up the area some. And it's just never been developed. They bought it back in 2000 and just, they haven't used it for anything.
And it's probably safe to say if we didn't do the upgrades to the utilities out there, they probably would not have gone forward with, because obviously it's a very low area.
Mm-hmm.
I'll move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Charks. Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Motion to adopt. Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Barrington. Discussion? Roll call.
Charts. Aye. Smith.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle. Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Motion carries. First reading on ordinance O 2022-14, rezoning plat of Lot 11 of Sharpstone subdivision, a subdivision of the west half of the south half of the southwest quarter of the northwest quarter, Section 9, Township 103 North, Range 60 west of the 5th Prime Meridian, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota, from R4 high-density residential to Sharpstone Plan Development District. Mr. Jenigas.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this 7-0. 36 letters were sent out, 11 were returned in favor, 5 against. The ones that were against had concerns about the drainage in the area, the lot sizes being too small, side yard setbacks, and then who's going to pay for the infrastructure. With talking with the applicant, he presented us a concept plan of what he wants to do out there. And so some of the setbacks were too small, so instead of doing a variance for every single one of them, they're going to be 1,000 to 1,100 square foot houses with an attached garage. The widths that they're going at were about in the 54 to 57 wide out there. For R4, it's 60 foot. The front setback is supposed to be 25 foot in R4. In this area, he's requesting it to be 15 feet. Do I have the, can you go to the GIS view of it, I believe? There's your concept plan of it. They're all angled, so there's enough room for the driveway for a vehicle to still sit on there. It's going to be a one-way street going north. The sidewalks will be adjacent to the road itself, so that actually gives you a little bit more room for parking there. It's going to be an HOA for the road.
So the road will be privately owned?
Privately owned, yep. The applicant's here. If you have any questions for him, or if you have any questions for me, I can answer any as well.
Mr. Kerner, you want to say anything?
Has it been relayed to the neighbors that they will not be assessed? Has that been communicated?
It was spoken at the planning commission meeting that all this would be on the contractor himself for him, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, like Mr. Jennings said, I guess my name is Caleb Kerner. I'm a member of this development, and yeah, like he said, it's we're going to do 1,100 square foot houses. We're just trying to get it zoned for this, so that just following your guys' rules, I guess, that's set forth.
So is it mainly designed for elderly couples, or is there any limitations at all?
No, there's no limitations on who can own these homes, but it is designed as a slab on grade, so there's no steps. And it is a smaller home for someone who's looking to downsize, and probably looking at retirement.
And that's the way I look at it too, is it possibly could get a couple out of their home, and then that opens it up, that house in Mitchell, or wherever, I guess.
Yes.
Housing is an issue in every small town around us, including Mitchell, that it might be opening up a few houses, which I think is a very good positive.
So a lot of the concerns are the lot size, and obviously the assessment, which was just answered, and the setbacks. So, I mean, do you want to just address that for us? And I see that there are some of the neighbors that are here that may want to.
I can probably go over that a little bit better than you. So lot size actually in R4 is all 6,000 square feet. All of these lots are over the 6,000 square feet that's in R4. Minimum lot width in R4 is 60 feet. This is requesting 50 feet. Like I said, most of them are actually 54, 57 feet. We went with 50 just so that way it was an even number. The front yard setback, as I discussed, is 25 in R4. It's 15 for this location. It meets the rear yard setback, though, still at the 25 feet, which is R4 as well. The side yard setback that was brought up is 3 foot in R4, and it's still 3 foot in this. So really, between overhangs at 6 feet, usually a 2-foot overhang, there's 10 feet right there between.
So how does it compare with the units that the homes that already exist on Sharpstone?
A lot of those are duplexes or fourplexes, so they're sharing common walls, so technically it's a 0 setback for those on the side. They meet the 25 in the front. They have the 0 between the two of them, and they're meeting the rear. The lot sizes for a lot of those are probably under the minimum that's required per R4.
3-foot setback on side yard is what we have in every residential in Mitchell. It used to be 8, then it went down to 5, and then in 2012, when the zoning code was redone, it went to 3.
I would also like to note, and Caleb can correct me if I'm wrong, the road is planned to be private, so the city will not be maintaining it or pushing snow on it. The utilities will also plan to be private. So any issues that happen specifically with that development will be I'm assuming they will set up an HOA type. So whoever is purchasing one of these homes, they know what they are signing up for, because they know they're going to be joined in the HOA and how all that will work.
So here's the GIS of the area with the houses around. It's this area right here, right, Mike?
Correct, yep. And then to the west is a bunch of townhomes, all abutting each other as well.
This is just first reading,
reading.
right? So
Correct.
then, obviously going back to planning commission, so move to put on first reading.
Motion by Mr. Barrington,
Second.
second by Mr. Smith. Okay, ma'am, come on up.
My name is Penny Burchow, and I live at 1403 Sharpstone. So I'm right behind this lot. And he had mentioned how many letters were sent out, and then the paper indicated that there was no, that everybody was in favor. And as he indicated, the responses, there was more yes responses than no responses. And I think there was 8 yes responses. And those 8 yes responses were people that did not live on that property, on that lot. They lived across the street. Myself and for 3 other people, let me see, 1, 2, 4 of us that live right on that same property voted no. It said no. Somebody across Sharpstone also had said no with the same concerns about the lot size. And I think the majority of us that had said no was the main concern of the drainage. In that area, it does get wet. We all have finished basements. We're very concerned about drainage, where that water's going to go. Other areas we have heard of developments where the property, the drainage goes off and it goes on to people's basements or the sewage backs up. So yes, indeed, we do have a concern. We want to have insurances that it's going to be taken care of. If not, we do not want to be liable for the damage that is caused because of some runoff or some sewage. They're again very concerned about the size and how many people are going to be in that area. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schrader, you want to address that?
Yeah, I would just like to note that their site will be required to be plans provided and stamped by a civil engineer. Our office will be required to review them to make sure they are in compliance with our ordinances and standard engineering practices. We have seen some preliminary plans of drainage and those types of things, and there's no concerns at this time from anything that I see that's unusual or anything as far as that goes. But we will review plans and we will require a drainage plan that will be stamped by a civil engineer.
This PUD is actually more restrictive than what the R4 zoning is for all your conditional uses and your permitted uses. This is just requesting single and 2-family dwellings for permitted. In R4, you can have a 24-unit apartment under a conditional use that could be put out there. And this one only has childcare, community garden, or home occupations for conditional uses. So it's much more restrictive than what someone could put there without anybody doing any boats or anything like that.
One thing I want to add.
State your name again, because you're on.
Okay, Penny Burchow.
Thank you.
One of the things that I've heard at this meeting and the meeting previous was, several of us live in the 4-plex or a 2-plex. And therefore, I got out of it, why should we be concerned when we live in a 4-plex, how close people are? My 4-plex is wonderful. I don't even know I have neighbors. Sexton did a nice job building them. They're sound-proof. They're laid out where I don't know I have a neighbor. I do have a concern when there's several houses behind me in a development that is that close together. And so, I take offense to the fact that people say, well, it's a duplex, so therefore you guys are living close together. We are, and we made that choice, and they're very, very nice homes. And also, we're taxpayers, so thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Looking at the design there, where is the snow going to be pushed?
The snow will probably push to the north, and we'll probably just have to truck it away. I mean,
Oh,
it's-
that's what you're planning on? Yeah,
it's-
okay, that's what I was thinking.
You know, I mean, the size of this development is, there's not a lot of room to do much with, and you know, it'll probably just have to be trucked away, which I think will probably be the best thing for, you know, that area. The whole thing should probably be trucked away. You know, the neighbors including, I mean, there's just no place to pile snow up there.
Okay, further discussion? Anybody else in the audience want to address this?
Yeah, Rick Agnich. I live at 1417 Sharpstone. I know they're planning on building 13 homes, seem to be awful close together. Is there a chance they could build 11 homes, make them a little bit bigger and the yards a little bit bigger?
It's something I can look into, but I think for the prices of everything and to make this development work on a financial basis, I think we need 13 lots. I mean, if we took it down to 12 lots, we probably wouldn't even need to do a PUD. So then we wouldn't even need to do any of this. But I think for what it is, we need 13 lots to, you know, make this development work.
Mark, the side yard setbacks are 3 feet. Which is code.
Yep. Further discussion? Anybody else want to address it?
And just so that you know, typically what we do is we pass these things on first reading, which allows another reading, so there will be another opportunity for people to come and talk. So we'll be supporting this generally, I'm not going to read a crystal ball, but generally speaking, we pass it on first reading, which gives everyone a chance for 2 more weeks and another chance to come and talk about it. So.
Keep in mind, you got planning commission 2 to go to next
No,
week.
they've already been there.
Oh, it's already there.
They've already been to planning,
So 2 weeks?
2 weeks. Okay. Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We're adjourned.